Hey everyone, this is Scott Wyden-Kivowitz, and I am so excited to share with you this new software from my friends at MacPhun. This puppy is awesome. So if you are the type of photographer who is not one for staying inside of Lightroom, staying inside of Aperture, or don't want the complexity of Photoshop, you just want a simple photo editing tool that can get the job done, then this is right for you because it is powerful and has a lot of really cool options like presets and comparisons and things that you would expect from all the other great software out there in a very inexpensive, very functional, full photo editing software. And what's really nice is that it is standalone, but will also work as a plugin in Lightroom and Aperture in Photoshop. So you can do a lot of really nice things. As you can see here, it's a beautiful user experience. The design is very elegant. Your photo is huge. You've got, you've got your histogram. You've got your adjustments here. You've got some pretty basic adjustments like you would expect from any other tool. But what's nice is you can just, not only can you hide things, but you can also just unclick an entire section so it's not used at all. So let's say you're making your adjustments. So check this out. I'm making adjustments, basic adjustments of exposure, but then I decide, you know what, let's see what it looks like without that entire batch. You can just uncheck it and it's done. You can also double tap, just like in Lightroom, you can double tap to zero out all the settings. You can adjust your temperature, all that fun stuff. Your vibrance, your saturation. Here's a really cool one called Pro Contrast. So you can adjust the contrast of individual components of the scene, like shadows, highlights, and midtones, all separate from each other. And you can actually control how much it will use of the shadows and how much of the midtones and highlights and whatnot. They call it offset here. And then at the same time you have structure. So a favorite feature that a favorite effect that a lot of people have in other software out there is tonal contrast and structure. So they're giving you this cool, global adjustment and micro adjustment of the structure. You could call it micro contrast. Again, highlights and midtones and shadows all separate from each other. So you can see there what a cool effect that does. Look at the wood. Look at the grain in the wood. You can see all the detail in the wood there, and it's only in the shadows. You can even soften that up so it's not as harsh if you wanted to. Let's bring that down. Let's zero it out. So you go back to zero. You can do it with the micro adjustment. So instead of it being global, you can have it very fine-tuned instead of it being a huge change in the structure. And let's go back. Now again, we can also deselect it if we wanted to see what it looked like before and after. And then you got here some detail, so just regular detail that you would expect. Bringing up some of that fine detail, not the micro structure or micro contrast like in the previous slider. Again, we can uncheck it, and we can even hide it if we wanted to hide it. Let's zero that back out. And again, global highlights and shadows, everything is separate. That's a beautiful thing about the software, is everything is so detailed. You've got so much control over everything. Now it's got this very nice feature called Smart Sharpness. When you add it, it actually does a pretty good job of just, making a nice little adjustment in the sharpness right where you want it. So you can see it's very sharp right here, and it's, not sharp in the background, which I don't want. So I'm going to zero that back out. And then, of course, vignetting. Very nice vignetting. It does a great job. Very similar to Lightroom. I'm finding that a lot of this is very similar to Lightroom, but not every photographer wants Lightroom. Not every photographer wants to, pay that expense every time there's an update or join that cloud program. So this is a really nice option because it's just a standalone software. You don't have to rely on a catalog. It's just there. And the beauty is you can use it, again, with many different things. Now, here's the cool part about this. I just showed you all these different effects that you can make, all these different adjustments in the processing. You can layer them. So just like you could in a Photoshop or in other software, you could actually layer the effects, change the opacities. You can even mask. You can actually use a masking tool that, just like what you're used to, you can mask in and out your effect. You could even zoom in, move the photo around. You've got a gradient tool, so you can do the same thing. You can mask with a gradient tool. There's so many options. And then when you're, and here you can change your brushes right here as well if you don't want to do it with keyboard shortcuts. And you've got comparative tools. So here's a left and right comparison before and after, and then you can also do a top and bottom. So let's switch out. There's top and bottom, before and after. One thing I really like is you can hold down this button right here. You might recognize this from Google Snapseed, sort of a preview button, so you can see before and after just by holding that down. Let's try to give you an idea. Let's bump down the exposure, and here's before and after. So nice idea. And then you've got your undo and redo type buttons. You can fit to screen, you can zoom in 100%, all that fun stuff. You've got your little zoom icon right here where you can actually zoom in that way for some fine tuning if you wanted to. Let's fit to screen. And here is where you can export, so you get some quick exports. You can go to AirDrop, so you can go right to your iPhone, which is pretty nice. You can export here back to Photoshop, back to Lightroom, to iPhoto, all that fun stuff, and you're open. And I love that it shows you your EXIF data as well, a little bit at least. It shows you your EXIF data, which is nice. You can create a preset. So actually, I created a preset, so we'll call this Tiny Truck. And here's a preset I did specifically for this photo. I love this software. I'm a Lightroom user, but sometimes I want to go outside of Lightroom for different added things, and MacPhun is making it more fun, pun intended, to edit photos outside of Lightroom when I really want to. So thank you, MacPhun, for making this really awesome software. I can't wait to share it with everybody and show people how to use it. This is Scott Wynkiewicz again. Thanks for watching.